Alright, so now let's take a look at how to connect to and how to use the Blueshape app and how the Wi-Fi on these batteries works in general. There are two ways to connect to these batteries. One is to use the battery itself as a Wi-Fi hotspot, but in that case you can only connect to one at a time. The other way is to connect the batteries to an existing network, and then you can monitor multiple batteries at once. Either way, you can monitor the batteries from multiple devices at the same time. So if you and somebody else on set both want to monitor the batteries or control the batteries, you can do that either way. We're going to start out by connecting to the battery directly, and then after I will go in and try to connect these all to my existing home network and connect to multiple batteries at the same time, just to show you how that works as well. First off, to turn on the Wi-Fi on the battery, you're going to want to hold the button down next to the battery meter for about 5 to 8 seconds until it starts flashing green. Once it starts flashing once every second or two, that means that the Wi-Fi is active in the battery. The Wi-Fi here will stay on for 8 hours when the battery is inactive. You can also customize that in the app for longer or shorter times, but it will stay on as default for 8 hours when the battery is inactive. You can also shut it down manually by holding that button down again, and it will shut off when it flashes, I believe, red. So now that the Wi-Fi on the battery is turned on, go into my Wi-Fi on my phone and you can see the battery name comes up here. It's named by default. Again, you can reset this in the app and we will do that in just a second, but it's named by default as the battery type and its serial number, which you can see listed on the battery itself. So we'll select that and connect to that battery. Once we're connected, we'll go ahead and open up the Blueshape app. In the app on the home screen, you can see the batteries that you're connected to. In this case, just the one that I have the Wi-Fi turned on right now. Again, we will go in here and do multiple batteries in just a second. But on this home screen, you can see some of the basic information, the Wi-Fi strength, the battery remaining capacity, the information about the battery's name, of course, and how much that battery has. In this case, it's a 95 watt-hour HD battery. Tapping on the icon on the left will bring up a kind of quick pop-up screen with some more detailed information on it. Right now I'm not using this battery, so there's 0.0 amps watt draw. It's at 97% power, and you can see the actual voltage as well in real time. Touch anywhere else on screen to exit out of that, and if you touch the actual main area of that bar, I guess you could call it, it will jump into a more detailed menu, which we will look at in a second, but I want to jump back out and show you more in this main menu as well. Down the bottom you have this icon which looks like a menu, and that's how you're going to jump back into this main menu here when you're not already in it. That's how I just jumped out just a second ago. You also have the question bar that will give you some information about the version you're working with. It will give you a link for their website and also an online user manual, which is very, very in-depth and very, very good. So I recommend you take a look at that as well if this video doesn't answer all the questions you might have. You can of course click back to go back, or you can just click that little icon down the bottom again to bring you back to the main menu. On the right side you do have this settings icon, and you can go in here and set a default password. Now, to do things like lock the battery, you're going to need to both set the default password in this app and then send that password to each of the individual batteries if you want to use those functions like the lock function, for example. You can also switch back and forth between Celsius and Fahrenheit here, and that will be the settings for what it shows you in the app in terms of the battery's temperature. So now let's jump into the detailed page of what you can see for each of these batteries. And you can see here there is a lot of information. So on this first screen here, you have the pack voltage, the actual load. Again, I'm not using this battery right now. I will show you a battery that's in use in just a second. You can see the state of the charge. I'm at 97%. If you are currently charging the battery, which again I'm not charging and I'm not using the battery right now, so it's at 0.0 hours. You can see the cell temperature, the remaining capacity in milliamp hours, the full charge capacity in milliamp hours. You can see the cycle count. This is how many times it's been discharged and recharged. This particular battery only has one. You can also see the strength of the Wi-Fi signal. If you're using rental settings, which we'll talk about in a minute, you can see information about the time left and the usage time left down here. You can see your model and serial ID down the bottom as well. So even if you change the name of this, you can see that information down at the bottom. But for example, if the label on your battery has been worn out and you can't see the serial ID or anything and you don't know which battery is which, you can also use this Find Me button. And when you push the Find Me button, the light on the battery will actually flash green and red, so you can look around between your different batteries and see which one this one is that you're currently monitoring. So before we go into the advanced and the rent settings, I want to just quickly rename this battery. So you can see up top there's the bar with the name that it's currently set at, and if you click the little pen icon, you can then rename it. So let's say I want to rename this, let's say BS for Blueshape, not for bullshit. BS95, let's say number 1, not number Q, number 1. And click OK. And now that name will be changed, and you can see it up top. So if I wanted to put some gaff tape or something and write individual numbers or names on each of these batteries so I can find them easier or connect to them easier, then you can do that right there. If you want to go back to the default name, then go in here and delete everything and click OK, and it will jump back to the default name. So you can reset that as well, so don't worry about messing that up. Down the bottom here, you do also have the question thing, which you can see again the version of your battery as firmware, and this can be updated. The website and the help manual once more. You also have the lock function here, which again, I didn't yet set a default password. Like I said, to use the lock function, you need to first set a default password and then send that password to the battery, which we'll see how to do that in just a second. And then you have the settings for the battery itself. So that will bring you to the shutdown timer, send password to battery, and reset battery password. So shutdown timer, this is going to be where you can set how long you want that Wi-Fi to stay on for when the battery is inactive. So it's set to 8 hours, but you can go all the way down to 0 hours and 1 minute, or all the way up to 10 hours and 59 minutes as the max. So we'll go and keep that on 8 hours for now, or we can just click cancel. To send the password to the battery, like I said, you have to already have that default password set. But when you set it in the app, that doesn't automatically set it in the battery itself, because you have multiple batteries, and whatever one you're connected to, you have to individually send it to those. So set the default password, and then when you connect to each battery, like right now I'm selected this BV095HD Mini number 229941. When I'm connected to that battery, I will send the password to the battery here, and it will send it to the battery, so that way I can use things like that lock setting. But it shows me here, of course, I didn't set the generic password yet, so you can do that from that main configuration screen, which we already looked at. If you want to reset the battery password here, you have to enter a security key. Again, I haven't done anything with the password just yet, so yeah, we'll leave it at that. To go back to our main battery screen here, click back, or you can go back to the home screen by pressing that little icon on the bottom, but let's go back for now. And I want to take a look at the advanced page next. The advanced page has a lot more detailed information for monitoring the status of your battery. You can see each of the individual cells' voltage to see how things are balanced in there. You can see the battery status, the pack status, the FET status. You can check your firmware version here. You can see that off timer. You can see how much time is left. So if the battery or the app is inactive, it will start to count down right here in the app. And also the password is not set, so there's nothing there down at the bottom. You have the Find Me options. Standard will bring you back to that previous standard information page. Network is where you're going to connect this to an existing network, and we'll do that in just a minute. And next up, let's check out rent, which is going to be the same as the rent option from the previous page. This is meant to be used with another app that Blueshape does offer for free, where you can go in and choose rent settings to set rental times or rental usage. So if you are a rental house, or you're letting somebody borrow these batteries and you don't want them to overuse them, or you want them to have some limit so that way they're not tempted to just keep them or steal them from you, you can go in and set an actual rental time for amount of days that they can use them, or rental usage for how many hours they can use them, depending on what type of rental you want to do. But you can set that in that additional app, and it will give you a kind of key password here that you can enter in here when you have that password. I don't have it right now, but you can set that, click rent, and it will start counting down. So when the limit is met, the customer will no longer be able to use the battery. They will still be able to charge it, but they will no longer be able to use the battery. So for rental houses, or for letting people borrow your batteries, this is really great to be able to put a little bit more control over them. But this is how you would control that, and then you can go back. So now jumping into our network settings, again, this is where you're going to connect to an existing network, and this will allow you to monitor multiple batteries at the same time without having to disconnect from your network with your phone. So you can still use the internet, and you can also connect to multiple batteries without having to individually connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. Once you go into this available networks, it will show you a list. Now I only have 2. Blueshape Granite Link is the battery itself, and that will always have a star next to it, which means that it's a preferred network. My other network, which is my house's Wi-Fi right now, is Scott's Wi-Fi network. To connect to that, of course, you will go in here and click it, and the option to enter the password will pop up. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you do that, it will show a check mark next to the network that it's connected to. Again, the star means that it's preferred network. So if you can't find this network, then it will connect to that preferred network. But now there's a star next to that Scott's Wi-Fi network, which means that if that is available, it will connect to that as the default right now. So now that I'm connected to my house's Wi-Fi and the battery is also connected to my house's Wi-Fi, I can go ahead and monitor that even though I'm not connected to the battery itself, which means that I'm still using the standard Wi-Fi on my phone, and I don't have to worry about having to disconnect from that in order to connect to the individual battery. But the real advantage is being able to monitor multiple batteries at once. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to each of my other batteries so that way I can then set those to connect to my house's Wi-Fi, and now after that I can go back and connect my phone to the Wi-Fi, and then I can monitor all three at the same time. So now I'm connected to my house Wi-Fi with my phone, and all three batteries are connected to that Wi-Fi as well. I can now see all three batteries right here, and if I click on the quick pop-up, for example, for each one of them, I can see the information for each one of them in real time. You can see this 95 watt-hour battery, for example, is charging right now, but it's at 100%. And if I go into the 140, it's actually being used right now to power a camera and a monitor. You can see it's at a minus 1.3 amp usage charge. And if I jump into there to see more detail, you can see that, for example, the expected time to empty based on that current charge is 7 hours and 42 minutes. If I jump back out and go into the battery that's charged, you can see the expected time to full is 0 because it's at 100% actually. It was charging a few minutes ago, but it's nice that you can see all of that information here, and you can know for sure that your battery is 100% charged, and you can know a general estimate of how much longer you can use your battery for in terms of time, not just like 10% or 20%, because sometimes that doesn't really give you a great idea of how much time that will actually translate to. So basically that is this app. That's what it's all about. That's how to get connected to it, and that's what it can do for you. Of course, this app, or the Wi-Fi functionality of these batteries, even with the app closed, will send you alerts when batteries are fully charged. It will send you alerts when the battery is about to die. So it is a very useful thing to have so that you can be really aware of exactly what's going on with multiple batteries on set, either powering lights or your camera. You can know a lot of information about your batteries. You can monitor their health. You can monitor how much longer you'll be able to use them. You'll know when they're fully charged, so you can switch out batteries from the chargers. There's just a lot of benefit that you can get from this app. And again, it's something that I'm frankly pretty surprised about in terms of how useful it is.